Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, you've given us some fantastic material, and we're going to use it to explore something really fascinating.
Oh, yeah. What's on the menu?
How technology and culture have sort of shaped the songs we love throughout history.
Ah, the silent partners in songwriting.
Exactly. We're talking a journey from, sheet music way back when, all the way to streaming today, and even how formulas for pop hits evolve.
It's a great topic. It really is this constant back and forth. A new invention pops up, or tastes change.
And it doesn't just change how we listen.
No, it fundamentally changes how songs get written, how they're put together, even, how long they are. There are some surprising connections in there.
Okay, let's dive in. So winding the clock way back before, 1887, music was mostly live, right? Ephemeral.
Gone in an instant, yeah. Then the phonograph comes along.
And suddenly, music's a thing. You can own it, play it whenever.
Exactly. And that had this immediate, almost accidental effect on writing. Well, those first wax cylinders, they couldn't hold much audio. Maybe around 3 minutes.
Just 3 minutes.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny how that technical limit basically created this guideline.
The 3-minute rule.
That's the one. It shaped pop music for, almost a century. Songwriters had to get to the point fast.
It feels so short now, but you're right. Think of those early 20th century songs, heartfelt stuff like Who's Sorry Now, and those really catchy, almost novelty tunes like when the Red Robin goes, bob, bob, bobbing along. They fit right in.
They had to. It makes you wonder, did that restriction actually force a certain kind of sharp creativity? Get the hook in quick.
It probably did. And you also mentioned in the sources the listening habits back then.
Yeah.
It was all about dancing.
A lot of it, yeah. Especially early popular music. Think Foxtrot, Charleston.
Yeah.
People listened together. Jukeboxes, nightclubs.
Communal stuff.
Right. So that favored music you could actually dance to easily. Simple rhythms like 44 time. Easy to follow.
Which brings us neatly to Tin Pan Alley. Early 1900s, New York City.
The heart of it all. 28th Street mainly.
It sounds romantic, but it was more like a business, wasn't it? An industry.
Oh, very much so. It was the engine for making and selling popular music. And success wasn't streams or downloads then.
No, it was sheet music sales.
Exactly. Billboard's first chart, 1913, was tracking sheet music. That tells you where the money was.
And it was really specialized, like an assembly line. You had composers, lyricists, arrangers.
And songpluggers, crucial role.
Songpluggers, what did they do exactly?
They were the promoters. Their job was to get performers to pick up the songs written by the publishing house staff.
So, hammering pianos in department stores, convincing vaudeville singers.
All of that. Getting the song out there, making it known, hoping it would catch on and sell more sheet music.
So a really clear separation. The songwriter wasn't usually the singer.
Very rarely back then. Songwriters worked for the publishers, they wrote for Broadway, for Hollywood movies, for whoever needed a song.
The idea of an artist writing their own material was just not the norm.
Not at all. The song itself was the commodity, crafted by experts for others to perform.
And the sources mention different types, right?
Yeah.
Irish songs, comedy tunes, some less savory stuff too, reflecting the times.
Yeah, dialect songs, coon songs. It's a reminder music always exists in a cultural context, warts and all.
And then there's Happy Birthday. Apparently that took a weird path.
Huh. Yeah, not exactly the standard Tin Pan Alley model for that one. It highlights how some things just catch on differently.
Makes you think what else might have been missed by that system.
Definitely. But the whole system was about to get shaken up anyway. Technology waits for no one.
Right. Recording tech and radio.
Big changes coming.
So we talked phonographs, but then the formats kept changing. 78s.
Then 45s, LPs, 8-tracks, cassettes, CDs.
And each one had its own influence on song lengths, album ideas.
For sure. It's interesting with the 45 p.m. single. It could have held longer songs than the old 7/8s.
But it didn't usually.
Not really. It stuck close to that 3-minute mark, mostly because of radio programmers.
Radio needed short, catchy stuff.
Exactly. Don't bore us. Get to the chorus. That was the mantra. Keep the listeners tuned in, play more songs per hour.
But then the LP arrives, the long player, initially for jazz.
Yeah, jazz guys needed space for those long improvisations, but pop artists saw the potential.
Like the Beatles. Your sources point to them really embracing the LP format.
Totally. Suddenly they could think bigger than just a hit single. They could create a whole album experience, a journey.
Cohesive piece of work.
Precisely. The LP gave them that canvas, experimentation, themes across tracks. It changed how artists approached recording.
And another piece of tech, the microphone, the vocal mic in the 50s. Seems small, but huge impact.
Massive. Before that, Singers had to really belt it out to be heard, especially live. Volume was key.
But the mic changed that.
It shifted the focus. Suddenly you could capture subtle things. Vocal tone, phrasing, the lyrics became
The
clearer.
rise of the crooners.
Exactly. Sinatra, Billie Holiday. That intimate style was enabled by the microphone. Songwriters could now write for that kind of delivery. Nuance mattered.
And then the elephant in the room, radio, from the 1920s onwards.
Impossible to overestimate its influence. It shaped taste, it drove record sales.
It was the platform for new artists, wasn't it?
Absolutely. For decades, getting on the radio was everything. Although, interestingly, at first, the record labels were worried.
Worried. Why?
Because people could hear music for free on the radio, why buy the record?
Ah, right. Live broadcasts.
Yeah. But then the industry figured it out. They started selling the idea of owning the music, repeated listening, hearing your favorite song whenever you want.
So they ended up helping each other.
Definitely. A symbiotic relationship. Radio played the hits, people bought the records, the market just exploded.
Okay, so that takes us from this world of separate writers and singers towards, well, a huge shift in the mid-60s. The singer-songwriter emerges.
Oh, yeah. That was a game changer. You get artists like Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, Bob Dylan, writing and performing their own songs.
Making it personal.
Hugely personal. It created this direct line between the artist's experience and the listener. No filter, just their voice, their words.
And then the bands start doing it too. The Beatles, obviously.
Revolutionized it for bands. They weren't just playing covers or songs written for them. They were the creative engine.
Inspiring the Rolling Stones, the Kinks.
Countless others. It became the model.
And the impact of that is still felt today, isn't it?
Absolutely. Greater artistic freedom, for one. Massive genre innovation followed rock, folk, punk, hip-hop later, all emphasizing that personal storytelling.
It shifted power too, right? Artists got more control.
Definitely. And it really cemented the idea of the artist's brand, their unique identity tied directly to the music they created themselves.
Let's switch focus a bit to the studio itself. Before the 50s, things sound pretty basic.
Extremely basic by today's standards. Studios were often owned by labels or radio stations. You had mixing desks, sure, but manipulating the sound, very limited.
Like effects and stuff. Reverb.eq.
Pretty much dictated by the room acoustics and maybe some very primitive console features. Not much creative shaping of the sound itself.
But then technology marches on. Signal processing gets better.
And that opens up huge possibilities. Reverb units, equalizers to shape tone, compressors to control dynamics.
And songwriters and producers, often the musicians themselves by this point, start using this stuff.
They jumped on it. Suddenly you could sculpt the sound, create atmosphere, make things punchier, add echoes. It became part of the creative process itself, building a unique sonic world for the song.
And then the 80s hit. Synthesizers, drum machines.
Whoosh! A whole new sound palette arrives. Big impact, especially in rap and new wave, as your sources mentioned.
Leading to louder, faster singles sometimes.
Often, yeah. Drum machines gave you these precise, driving beats. Synths offered sounds no acoustic instrument could make. It reshaped pop sonics again. Louder mixes, different energy.
Which brings us, finally, to now. The streaming era. We're all living in it.
And it's changing things again. No surprise there.
How so, this time? Song structure seems to be a big one.
Definitely. The way royalties work on streaming platforms. Well, it incentivizes getting listens, and specifically listens past a certain point, often 30 seconds.
So you need to hook them fast.
Exactly. Get to the chorus, or the main hook, much earlier. Less time for long intros. Shorter songs overall are becoming more common too, potentially to maximize the number of plays.
It's all about grabbing attention immediately. No more fade-ins, just bam, here's the catchy bit.
Pretty much. And another huge thing with streaming, geography is almost meaningless now.
Right. Global reach is easier than ever.
So you see genres like Afropop, K-pop, regional Mexican music just exploding internationally. It's fantastic.
And one source asked, do you even need to sing in English anymore to have a global hit?
Increasingly, the answer seems to be no. Look at the charts. It's becoming much more diverse linguistically.
That's really cool to see. Now, shifting gears slightly, we looked at a Reddit discussion. People talking about pop music as almost a manufacturing process.
That idea comes up a lot.
Like, producers make tracks, then find artists. There's talk of a checklist of features, even brain hacks to make earworms. What's your take?
Well, modern pop production is often highly collaborative and, yeah, strategic. You have beat makers laying down the foundation.
Then top liners.
Right. Specialists who craft the main vocal melodies over the beat. Then lyricists might come in. It's often built in layers by different people.
Which explains those super long writing credits you sometimes see.
Exactly. But this brain hack idea, is there something to it? Are they literally hacking our brains with hooks? It's probably less sci-fi than it sounds, but there is growing research into music psychology.
Right.
Why do certain melodies stick? Why do certain rhythms make us move?
Stuff like expectation violation. Doing something slightly unexpected.
Yeah, that's one concept. Or processing fluency, making something easy for our brain to latch onto, but maybe with a slight twist. Daniel Levitin's work gets mentioned there. It's about finding that sweet spot between familiar and novel.
So not necessarily nefarious brain control, but understanding how we respond to sound patterns.
Exactly. And that Reddit thread also nailed something else. These pop formulas, they're not fixed. They're more like fashions.
Constantly changing.
Totally. Influenced by culture, what tech is available for production, and how we're listening. Think 80s reverb drums, 90s featured rappers. It shifts.
And that old advice, don't bore us, get to the chorus.
Still relevant. But when that chorus hits, how often it repeats. That might change depending on whether you're aiming for radio or, say, TikTok.
TikTok, the ultimate short attention span theater.
Right. The consumption technology keeps feeding back into the creation process. Radio DJs maybe wanted longer intros to talk over. TikTok needs the hook and second one.
It's this constant loop.
It really is.
And going back to brain hacks, the Reddit post mentioned using psychological principles, almost like designing jingles or slot machine sounds. That sounds a bit more calculated.
It can sound that way. And look, producers absolutely think about impact. There was that example of mixing Godey's, somebody that I used to know, and consciously thinking about musical anticipation, ideas from theory books. So yes, psychological concepts are definitely in the toolkit.
And you get figures like Max Martin. This guy just churns out global hits. People try to break down his formula.
His track record is undeniable. Whether it's a strict formula or just an incredibly refined intuition for what works internationally, he clearly understands how to craft songs with massive appeal across cultures, too.
Which leads to things like hit songs deconstructed, people trying to systematically analyze hits.
Yeah, resources like that try to break down the anatomy of successful songs. What's the structure, instruments, melody, hooks, what techniques are working right now.
Trying to find patterns, basically.
Exactly. To give songwriters and producers insights into what's resonating with listeners. It's analytical, but the goal is practical application.
So based on that kind of analysis and everything we've discussed, are there common threads? Universal elements of hit songs, regardless of era?
Well, universal is a strong word because tastes do change. But yeah, some things tend to crop up again and again.
Like themes.
Definitely. Lyrical themes about core human experiences, love, loss, overcoming things, celebrating life. Stuff most people can connect with emotionally.
That makes sense. And musically?
Musically, you usually need something strong. A catchy, memorable melody is often key, especially in pop. Harmony that adds depth. A compelling rhythm or beat.
Structure matters too, right? How it flows.
Absolutely. Effective structure, good dynamics, changes in loudness and intensity. And increasingly, high production quality is expected. It needs to sound good. Plus, decent lyrics help.
But the important shifts, maybe.
Yeah.
Like beat is king in hip-hop, guitar riff in rock.
For sure, different genres emphasize different elements, but most hits have several of these components working well together. It's about the overall package.
Wow. Okay, so we've really covered some ground.
Yeah.
From wax cylinders and sheet music.
Tin Pan Alley assembly lines.
Through radio, the singer-songwriter revolution, studio tech boosting creativity.
Right up to streaming, global hits, and data analysis.
It's crystal clear that songwriting isn't static. It's constantly shaped by tech, by culture.
By how we listen. It's this dynamic interplay. From 3-minute limits to, seemingly endless digital possibilities and analysis.
But the core goal remains.
I think so. To connect with people, to create something memorable, something emotionally resonant. That drive seems constant.
So thinking ahead, with technology, psychology, art all mixing together, what's the next big evolution? What kind of earworms are coming for us?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Maybe AI plays a bigger role. Maybe interactive music. That's hard to say.
But it's fascinating to think about how our own listening habits right now are probably nudging things in a certain direction. We're all part of this ongoing story.
We absolutely are. Every stream, every playlist shapes what comes next.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. Thanks for walking us through it.
My pleasure. Always fun to talk music history and tech.